The objective of this video is to understand cell references in Excel and explain the difference between a relative cell reference and an absolute cell reference. So a cell reference is how you refer to a cell in a formula or the cell to which another cell refers to. So if in cell, say G1, we refer, as you can see in the formula bar, it refers to an equal to sign, and it refers to cell A1. And we hit enter, you will see it does not, it's showing you that it is referring to cell A1, and it is not actually, we did not type in 3 in there. There are two types of cell references in Excel, a relative cell reference and an absolute cell reference. Relative referencing means that the cell address changes as you copy or move it. So when you create a formula in Excel, it uses what it's called a relative cell reference. If you move the cell, it also moves the reference for that cell. When you copy an Excel formula, it does not actually copy the numbers. In fact, it is copying the pattern. So let's look at an example. I have a bunch of numbers here, and in A4, we are going to get a sum of the 3 numbers above it. And I'm going to check enter, and let's see when you copy this over to the other 2 columns, you will see it does not copy 16, but it actually copies the formula so that you can get the total or the sum of the numbers in B and C column. Since we copied the formula 1 column to the right, the cell references and the formula also shift 1 column to the right. So when you copy a formula in Excel, the application will adjust the formulas so that the cell references are changed relative to their new location. So that's why it's called a relative cell reference. Now the other kind of cell reference in Excel is absolute cell reference. This means the cell reference stays the same if you copy or move the cell to any other cell. When you copy and paste formulas, we use this concept of absolute and relative cell reference, right? Copying a formula is very handy as you copy it to other cells. Now the reason being because it updates the reference. Remember, by default, relative cell references are used. This is an example where you do not want the cell references to change when you copy a formula. So in this next example, you will see how the camera's prices are listed for 3 brands, Olympus, Kodak, and Sony, and then it lists the price in the next column. But there is a tax rate that's applied to them, and we will see what is the tax amount for each of these cameras. And we are going to start out with an equal to sign since it's a formula, and it's for Olympus, so we get B11, multiply it by the tax rate, and the tax that we are paying for that is $24. And let's see when we copy that to the other cells, what does it do? So what it is doing is, let's look at this formula. Let's look at B11. The formula that we put in was B11 times C7. Let's look at the one below it. It's B12. That's what we want. It changed, it moved down a cell. B12 times C8, and so it is following that pattern where it came down from C7 to C8 also. And similarly, you will see it's B13, that's what we want for Sony, but then it's C9 that has a text in it. We don't want that. So we want to keep the tax rate to be 8%. So we want to keep C7 as absolute. We do not want to change that. So in such cases, you should make these cell references as absolute cell references. Either you type, let's go back to our first one here, and then let's go into C7. Either you could type the dollar signs to make it absolute. Oh, I don't know what that was. I think I messed up here. So I'm going to go back in here and then just delete that for a second. Let's go back and type that formula again. times the tax rate. And I'm going to make this, you can either, like I was saying, put a dollar sign there, or you could actually press F4, use the function key. So clearly that isn't working. Let me see. I'm working in a Mac here, so that could be the problem. Let me see if I can make this work now. So F4. Let me try the dollar signs because I think F4 is doing something weird. Let's see if this works. Since I make this absolute, I have to have a dollar sign before and after the column and the row. So let's try this now. So we have $24. This is good. Let's see if this makes us better. Look at that now. So it gave us the correct tax for each one of these cameras. So to recap this, you need to know that there are two kinds of cell references in Excel, relative and absolute cell reference. They both behave differently when copied to other cells. Relative cell references are the defaults, and you use them for most of the formulas, whereas the relative cell references change from row to row. And the absolute cell references always refer to a particular cell.